Thornton Tomasetti, we believe that climate change is real, and it's a problem that we must address. We also know that buildings contribute about 50% of the total CO2 emissions that are warming our planet. We see this as an opportunity to change the way we design and think about buildings. We believe that embracing sustainable design, including using more mass timber in buildings, is a way to reduce the amount of carbon emitted to the atmosphere to help slow the rate of climate change. I'm Paul Becker, Senior Principal and Office Director at Thornton Tomasetti's Portland, Maine office. I'm speaking today with Gunnar Hubbard, Principal and leader of our firm's sustainability practice, and he's internationally recognized as a leader in sustainable design. Hello, Gunnar, and welcome.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me.
I wanted to kick off our conversation with just a broad question about why sustainable design is so important now more than ever.
Our buildings have a huge impact on climate change, and therefore the materials we select, how we build them, how we operate them, all affect the environment. So sustainability ends up being integral to our path forward, really, as a profession and for just how we live on a daily basis.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the difference between operational and embodied carbon, because we know that those are two components of the carbon emitted from buildings.
The operational carbon is really what it takes to turn on the lights and plug in your computer. Now, the embodied energy is really what comes around to that building itself, the materials it's made of, where are they coming from, how are they manufactured?
So could you expand a little bit about how much energy is required to produce concrete and steel versus a mass timber product?
Concrete is made up of a multitude of products dug out of the earth and then baked in a hot oven to get to this powder that can then be used with, aggregate and water to make concrete for your buildings. That's a huge amount of steps. And then steel, in order to get it from out of the ground or to recycle it and then melt it and produce an I-beam or a joist, that's really energy intensive. Now wood, like just the energy to get wood into a useful form and ready to put onto a building is so much less energy intensive. As long as you're being smart about where you're getting your wood from and the sourcing and managing forests well, we have a regenerative cycle in this, and it ends up being one of the smartest building materials we can think of right now. It's literally a connection to nature right there in your building, in your space, like that biophilia connection, right?
Gunnar, you just mentioned biophilia, and perhaps you could explain that in a little more detail, what it is and how it impacts us.
It's really that, basic connection to nature that just comes with human life. It's realizing that as a design professional, as an owner, as an occupier of buildings, that you want to be connected to nature. And sometimes it's in the materials in your building, such as mass timber. It could be your incorporation of plants or a green wall in a building. And quite honestly, mass timber is that direct connection to trees in the forest.
Tell us a little bit how Thornton Tomasetti calculates the carbon.
Well, we've got a couple different ways. One that we've actually made free and available in the market is one called Beacon. It's a Revit plugin tool and allows designers to really take those sizing of members and literally export that to a calculator. And once we have that data, we are then able to adjust some of those and strength of concrete or even the recycled content of the steel. We can back into those numbers and help inform the design direction based on that data that we have at our fingertips.
I've used that program myself and used it to compare different structural systems. And it's really interesting when you're comparing a mass timber or wood-based building to other types of construction. It's a significant savings in embodied carbon.
The work that we at Thornton Tomasetti have been doing in terms of taking the data of a lot of our structural projects, and obviously they're not all mass timber, right? But trying to look at how we're doing from a steel and concrete standpoint. And I think that data, that information is literally helped advance some current thinking of organizations like the Carbon Leadership Forum, research institutions like the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, University of Washington. It's great to be sort of partnered in the industry and advancing the profession.
So Gunnar, at Thornton Tomasetti, we have been trying to move timber into the mainstream. What do you see, in your opinion, have the hurdles been, and where do you see things might be changing?
Well, I think, Paul, it's really supply and demand, right? When it gets right down to it. The knowledge has been there since the dawn of time, but the technology of the machines and being able to put together large timber, mass timbers, right, from small members is somewhat new. And now there's not enough resources. So as demand increases, we're going to have then the supply, and it's a bit of skill as well, right? Even here in the state of Maine, actually, I know you're involved in it, right? Trying to get some of those paper mills that have been abandoned and converted into mass timber production facilities. I think it's really innovation, right? The innovative side of being smarter about connections, allowing us to go taller than we ever thought we could with timber, getting agencies to get behind that. And so there's a bit of, partnering with local jurisdictions and national jurisdictions.
Well, the innovation piece is really interesting because as the interest in mass timber increases, we as engineers, designers, architects are starting to push the envelope on what we're asking mass timber to do. And what we're finding is that it's quite flexible. So I think we're at a crossroads where we have technology, we have manufacturing, and we have the desire and really the need based on climate change to move that technology forward.
We have been told by scientists, professionals across the globe that we really do have 10 years to make a difference. When we are so used to thinking operational carbon is the thing we need to do, it's completely shifted because of the importance of embodied carbon as well right now. So the decisions we make on any building that we're working on, that if we can be smart and reduce impact or the embodied carbon of those materials, it's an impact now versus over the life of the building.
Well, there's a lot of things for us to think about, but the good news is there are a lot of steps we can take as designers to improve our built environment, improve the impact on the planet, and hopefully create a better world for our future generations.
We just have to do the right thing. It is absolutely our responsibility as designers.
Thank you for sharing your insights with us today and letting us know a little bit more about the benefits of sustainable design, and particularly the use of mass timber in buildings as a path that we might consider to reduce carbon in the atmosphere and reduce climate change. And thank you for watching, and please look for other videos in this series.